My Podcast, a podcast that aims for better wellness for everyone. We talk about educational topics and untold stories. Listen as we unmask our personal experiences and lesson learned overcoming the threats posed by the COVID-19 pandemic that aims awareness for everyone who is facing the same challenges. I am accompanied with a friend and a co-host today, Friza Kale. Hello and welcome!
Hi, Gail. How are you? Thanks for having me here. You're looking great today.
Thank you. I'm glad you are here too, and I'm actually feeling great today too. And I gotta admit, we've experienced quite a lot in the past 2 years in our lives. And I am very excited to talk about our experiences today. So I'm really interested to discuss about our current issues and events, especially the ones that most of us are going through. And I know you are a student from City High, and so am I, and we are great friends. And I was just wondering, how's life been for you as an arts and design student?
Well, I would say it's a little bit of a lot, And it's cozy to be at home, but at the same time stressful because of these tracks aimed to improve my art skills and also the quarantine and pandemic going on. I've had the most hectic online classes ever compared to last time, but yeah, it's still fun and exciting, and I still find myself some entertainment.
Well, it's great to hear that, and shout out to our very great mentor, Sir Jeff, for his great teaching abilities. Honestly, we've learned a lot from him. But yeah, anyway, seriously, how have you been during this pandemic? Do you have any experiences that you would love to share with us today?
Oh yeah, I actually talked about this before in class. I noticed that life has been tougher ever since this crisis began, and I miss the old days where we can freely go out, and have fun. But despite that, I am very happy. I'm happy to say to you that I am doing really well these past days.
Well, that's great. And as far as I know, we've been through one of the worst things that could happen in our lives in the past 2 years. What did you do as a student to overcome those difficulties that we face?
Well, at first it was pretty rough because I have to adjust, especially now that I am not that familiar with online classes. But as soon as I start to take classes, I gradually learn to cope up with the challenges. Though I'm still struggling as of for now, but it's not worse than before. I researched a lot about time management. I fixed my schedule properly because I think that's the key to prevent problems from happening.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And given the potential dangers posed by the COVID-19, how did you maintain your own mental and physical well-being? I want to know.
Well, to be honest, Gail, I wasn't able to maintain both my mental and physical health. Why? Because I think I'm experiencing the phenomenon called pandemic fatigue. Fatigue. It's not a medical condition, though it's a natural response. People have this often find themselves in mental breakdowns, lack of exercise, changing eating habits, and difficulty in concentrating. That leads to serious problems like suicide, depression, and anxiety. I specifically remembered once when we were in first months of quarantine, I had numerous breakdowns, and I cannot forget this because I didn't like the feeling of being caged, because who does? And it led me to experience a lot of anxiety. I couldn't talk to my friends, I barely talked to my family, and what I did to ease that pain was to write. Writing has been my salvation, and I found that journaling gave my thoughts a chance to be heard without someone listening other than a pen and a paper. And I used to hate writing as much as math because it's very difficult, but as soon as I got to see the process, I saw and realized the beauty of it.
Oh yes, I really understand your situation. And sadly, I had to agree with her because if we try to sugarcoat or respond in a very positive way, we would be lying to ourselves, right? So, because of all of us are experiencing this crisis, we can be in a very tough position too. But we can find ways to overcome this dilemma, like following a strict schedule for exercises, using art as an therapy, and avoiding getting too much negative news about the pandemic because that could also lead us to overthinking the situation and giving us anxiety. Well, moving on, when this pandemic struck, Frieza, what did you discover that affected your perspective on who you are today?
Oh, my perspective on life has drastically changed. I used to be that type of person who took certain things for granted, such as the air we breathe, the my health, my opportunity to spend more time with my family. But then reality jolted me awake. I evolved into a person who is full of realization and gratitude, and honestly, a lack of that prior to this crisis. And you know what they say about finding lightness inside of darkness? Are you familiar, Gail, with the myth of Pandora? The myth of Pandora's box? Isn't anyone familiar with that? Oh, yeah. So, you know the story when Pandora opened the box, she discovered that there's not only darkness and evil inside of that box, but also hope and lightness at the very bottom of it. And I never expected that to be false in life because whatever problems we face, there's always a solution, there's always hope that could save us all, and I stick to this belief no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And I could not agree with you more. And to be honest, when you mentioned the topic about pandemic fatigue, I was struck because it happened to me as well. But despite I was experiencing that, it didn't stop me to find ways to make myself happy again. I began making these painting cards with letters behind them. I won't show you that I use it as like a way to cheer up other people.
Oh, if you could give me one, I would love to receive one of those.
Yeah, sure.
My door is quite open.
Yeah, of course, of course. And their reactions, their happy reactions would make me happy too, and it cheered me up. The pandemic also helped me that despite we are in a tough position, we could always find ways to make ourselves happy again. Well, how about you? Do you have something for me? I bet you got something.
Oh, well, since we talked about more about mental and physical health, above all things that we should discuss, I picked this specifically because I think that a lot of people can relate to, especially us students, and that is education. One of the most important things that this pandemic has threatened. And as an online student, do you think that online learning is more efficient to you than any other methods of learning?
For me, there's always benefits and drawbacks on online learning because I'm that type of kid who requires a lot of help and assistance in terms of my education and learning. Self-learning on modules can be very easy for others, but for me, no, that's a big problem. And when an instructor or a teacher doesn't have classes or lectures, I find myself at loss on what to do.
Yeah, we can all agree that we are all jolted by this new reality that we have here. And ever since the pandemic struck, life went and took on a detour, like how we deal with our education and so. And this question. The next question is for the audience. Do you have any tips for students who are still adapting to online education?
Well, all of us would agree that online learning is stressful and education's demands induce stress. But you don't have to give in to it. The most critical skill is stress management. We can recognize what's troubling us and develop solutions for it. We need to plan our activities properly, and it's actually very easy to say that rather than actually doing it, but we must discipline ourselves in that matter. And if there are lessons and classes, we must try our best to participate and listen.
Oh, don't get me started about talking about stress because I think all of us are experiencing that. But based on your experience on online education, online education may be both simple and complex, right? At the same time, exactly as you said. But what are the most effective methods for attempting to make up for the current situation?
Like what I've mentioned earlier, and you also mentioned this, while improving our time management and discipline can help us, but concentrating on important issues and homework can be very difficult too. So what I usually do after a long day of focusing on my modules, I indulge myself and unwind by watching YouTube videos on how to improve your artistic skills. Taking breaks And breaks have been proved to increase productivity, happiness, emotional balance, and drive to go above and beyond, according to studies. Taking a short rest, like 25 to 90 minutes, would be very recommended, and also experts also recommend that.
Oh, you know what? I relate to you in that YouTube part because I spend most of my time, most of my life basically in on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, because that's just basically the reality that we have now today. And well said. I think so too, especially now that we're living in the modern age of social media and technology. We tend to lean more of it to provide for our needs, address our needs and issues in life. So yeah. So honestly, Gail, if you could go on a little bit longer, I could talk more about this. We could talk more about this. We had so much fun. But since we have that, we must point out that, we can learn each other from each other, from sharing each other's experiences. It is important to help each other during the toughest times, like this pandemic, like this crisis that we're having now. And we may be inadequate, but we find more solutions than problems. Don't get me wrong, there's more solutions to problems than problems. And, don't take all negative things as bad. Use them for your betterment. And quote me on that because I created that quote for you guys. So, Gail?
Take note, everyone. But yeah, especially now that we face the challenges and threats of COVID, the best lesson that we can learn from this is always be our own solution makers, because in that way we can overcome everything that we can face. And we need to be more open to each other, helping each other, loving each other, and also don't forget to love ourselves as well. Well, folks, I think that's the end, and I would love to thank everyone who are watching right now who stay until the end. I appreciate your support, and I also appreciate Frieza for coming with me in this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gail, for mentioning that. And I'd also like to mention our beloved oral com teacher, Ma'am Chi, for making this possible. Thank you so much, ma'am. And also Gail for, this wonderful setup that we have here. I'm so honored to be here as your co-host and chit-chat with you. That was fun.
Well, yeah, that's a wrap. And I think we did a lot of venting up there.
Haha, don't get me started with that venting because I did quite a lot. It's like journaling, but we are talking to each other like in a podcast, especially now we're doing a podcast. And we actually unmasked ourselves in this episode. Wow, I am really honored that I am invited here as your co-host, and this is our very own podcast together.
Yeah, I feel the gratitude so much. But since we have to come to an end, we hope to chat with you guys more in the future. And once again, I am Gail de la Concepcion.
And I am Frieza May Kale.
And this is
Aim High Podcast.